You know that feeling, right? Just drowning in information, wishing you could just get a complex topic quickly, but properly understand it. That's what we aim for here. We do the sifting, the reading, looking through all the notes, and pull out the key stuff, the insights you need. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really significant piece of South African law. It's the Civil Union Act number 17 of 2006.
That's right. It was assented to, signed into law on November 29th, 2006.
And kicked in the very next day, November 30th.
And the version we're looking at is consolidated, updated to October 31st, 2022, last checked March 28th, 2025.
And importantly, it was amended back in 2020 by Act 8. So our mission today for you is to unpack this act. Doesn't matter if you're just curious about the law or maybe you're studying it. We want to give you a solid understanding in plain language, but, with the proper legal context.
Exactly. And we've got a clear plan. First, we'll look at the why, the purpose, the constitutional reasons behind it.
Yeah.
Then we'll get into the details. What is a civil union according to the act? We'll talk about how it's formed, the practical steps, solemnization, registration, and finally, the really big part, the legal consequences. What does it actually mean in the real world?
What's the impact?
Precisely. We want to pull out the most important nuggets, explain not just what it says, but really why it matters.
Okay, let's kick things off right there. The why. South Africa's constitution is famously progressive. So why did the country need another act? Specifically the Civil Union Act. What was missing?
It's the perfect place to start. You're right. The Constitution is the bedrock here. Its emphasis on equality and dignity is incredibly strong. You've got Section 9(1) saying everyone's equal before the law, equal protection, equal benefits.
Standard equality clause, basically.
Right. But then Section 993 gets specific. It lists grounds the state cannot unfairly discriminate on. And crucially, sexual orientation is right there in the list.
Okay.
Add to that Section 10, inherent dignity, the right to have it respected and protected, and Section 15(1), freedom of conscience, religion, belief, all fundamental rights.
And the Bill of Rights says these rights can only be limited if it's reasonable and justifiable in an open, democratic society based on dignity, equality, and freedom.
Exactly. So the Constitution set this incredibly high bar for equality and non-discrimination. But, and this is the key point, the existing family law didn't quite meet that bar. The preamble of the Civil Union Act itself spells it out. It says, and this is the direct quote, "The family law dispensation as it existed after the commencement of the Constitution did not provide for same-sex couples to enjoy the status and the benefits coupled with the responsibilities that marriage accords to opposite-sex couples."
So there was a clear gap. The Constitution promised equality, but the specific laws around marriage didn't deliver it for everyone.
Precisely. A legal void. Same-sex couples were effectively excluded from the legal structure of marriage and all that comes with it, rights, benefits, responsibilities.
So the act came in to fill that gap. Its stated purpose, then, is, let me get this right, to provide for the solemnization of civil unions by way of either a marriage or civil partnership, the legal consequences, and matters incidental thereto. So what were the specific objectives?
Well, Section 2 lays it out clearly. Objective A is to regulate how civil unions are solemnized, how they're registered, and Objective B is to spell out the legal consequences. So it's about creating the formal process and defining what that process means legally.
Building that clear legal pathway you mentioned.
Exactly. And Section 3 just clarifies that the whole act applies to civil union partners, the people actually joined in one of these unions.
Makes sense. Okay, so we know why it was needed. Let's get into the what. What exactly is a civil union as defined in this act?
Right. The definition is in Section 1. It defines a civil union as, let's break it down, it's a voluntary union.
Okay, consensual.
Yes. Between two persons. Critically, both must be 18 years of age or older.
Adults only.
Correct. And it has to be solemnized and registered, following the procedures in this act.
Right, following the specific rules.
And here's a key part. It can be by way of either a marriage or a civil partnership. That's the choice we mentioned.
Ah, yes, the choice in name.
And finally, it's to the exclusion, while it lasts, of all others.
Monogamous, like traditional marriage under the Marriage Act.
Exactly. It mirrors that exclusivity. And the term civil union partner just means the spouse in such a marriage or the partner in such a civil partnership.
Okay, that definition brings up that choice again, marriage or civil partnership. Section 11(1) says the parties choose. What's the practical difference? Does it change anything legally?
Legally, no. And that's the crucial part we'll get to later with Section 13. The legal consequences are the same, regardless of what you call it.
So it's more about terminology, personal preference.
Primarily, yes. It offers flexibility in how couples want their union recognized or referred to, but the underlying legal status and rights are identical. What is important legally, though, is the exclusivity spelled out in Section 8. You can only be in one civil union or one marriage under any act at a time. Section 8.1 is clear on that.
No mixing and matching.
Right. Section 8.2 and 3 say if you're in a civil union, you can't then go and get married under the Marriage Act or the Customary Marriages Act.
And vice versa.
Vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
If you're married under one of those acts, you can't enter a civil union. They're parallel but mutually exclusive systems.
Got it. Distinct paths.
And Section 8.4 and 5 handle previous relationships. If you were married or in a civil union before, you need proof it ended a divorce decree, death certificate, whatever is applicable. Standard stuff, really.
Okay. Now, Section 8.6. This seems like the absolute core of opening things up. It says a civil union can only be registered if the partners, quote, would, apart from the fact that they are of the same sex, not be prohibited by law from concluding a marriage under the Marriage Act or Customary Marriages Act. Can you unpack that very specific wording?
Absolutely. That phrasing is surgical, really. It directly targets the one specific barrier that previously existed for same-sex couples under the other marriage laws, the fact that they were of the same sex.
So it's saying, okay, ignore the same-sex aspect for a moment.
Precisely. It says, if everything else about your situation would allow you to get married under the existing laws, you're old enough, you're not too closely related, neither of you is already married, then the fact that you happen to be of the same sex is no longer a barrier under this act. You can proceed with the civil union.
So it preserves all the other standard marriage requirements.
Exactly. It cleverly expands access based on sexual orientation without dismantling the fundamental legal requirements for marriage concerning age, consent, capacity, prohibited degrees of relationship, and monogamy. It isolates and removes just the one discriminatory barrier.
That's a really neat legislative solution. Okay, so now we know what a civil union is and who can enter one. How does it actually happen? What are the practical steps for solemnization? What's the marriage officer's job here?
Well, Section 4 makes it clear that a designated marriage officer is the one who solemnizes the civil union. And importantly, for the purposes of this act, they have all the same powers, duties, and responsibilities that a marriage officer has under the regular Marriage Act. So there's consistency in the role.
Familiar procedures, then.
Largely, yes. And in terms of requirements, Section 7 is practical. No solemnization without proper identification. Each person needs their ID document or a specific affidavit if they don't have one, or maybe a combination. Standard identity verification.
What about religious solemnization? Can churches or other religious groups perform civil unions?
Ah, yes. Section 5 addresses that directly. Religious denominations or organizations can apply to the Minister of Home Affairs to be designated as bodies that are allowed to solemnize civil unions according to their rights.
So they have to opt in.
They have to apply and be formally designated, yes. The minister publishes lists of these designated organizations, and then individual ministers or officials within those designated organizations can also be appointed by the minister as marriage officers, specifically for civil unions.
Interesting. So it allows religious involvement but doesn't compel it. It strikes a balance.
It seems designed to, yes. Balancing religious freedom with the state's commitment to equality and providing access to civil unions. Then Section 10 deals with the where and when. Marriage officers can solemnize any time, any day, but they aren't obliged to work outside standard office hours, basically 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Fair enough. And where can it happen?
It must be in a public office, like Home Affairs, or a private house, or the marriage officer's own premises. And significantly, it must be with open doors.
Meaning not in secret, publicly accessible.
Generally interpreted that way, yes. A public act. And crucially, the two partners must be there in person, along with at least 2 competent witnesses.
Witnesses are essential.
Yes. There's an exception allowed if someone is seriously ill or injured. The ceremony might happen elsewhere, but the core requirements usually hold. And Section 10.3 is explicit. No proxy unions. You cannot have someone stand in for you. Both partners must be present.
Right. Personal declaration. Does the act specify what needs to be said? Like vows?
It does. Section 11.2 prescribes the key questions. The officer asks each partner something like, do you, AB, declare that as far as you know, there is no lawful impediment to your proposed marriage civil partnership with CD here present, and that you call all here present to witness that you take CD as your lawful spouse civil partner?
And they both have to say yes, presumably.
They have to affirm that, yes. Then the officer makes the declaration, I declare that AB and CD here present have been lawfully joined in a marriage civil partnership.
Formal and clear.
Yes. And Section 11.3 adds a practical safeguard. Minor mistakes, small errors, omissions, maybe due to a slip of the tongue or even a physical disability, won't automatically invalidate the union if it was clearly intended and otherwise legally performed in good faith.
That seems sensible, prevents technicalities from undoing a genuine union. Okay, ceremony done. How is it made official, the registration part?
Registration is key for the legal record. Section 12 outlines this. Both partners have to sign a prescribed document confirming their willingness right there in front of the two witnesses.
The same witnesses from the ceremony.
Yes, and the marriage officer and the witnesses also sign it to certify what happened. Then, the marriage officer issues the couple a registration certificate. This certificate confirms they're joined in either a marriage or a civil partnership, reflecting their choice. And importantly, Section 12.4 states this certificate is prima facie proof of a valid civil union.
Meaning it's accepted as valid evidence unless proven otherwise.
Exactly. It carries legal weight. The officer also has to keep records and send the details off to be included in the National Population Register, so it's officially logged.
And what if someone objects? Can they stop it?
Section 9 covers objections. Anyone can lodge a formal objection in writing with the marriage officer before the solemnization. The officer must then investigate the grounds for the objection.
And if the objection is valid?
If the officer finds a lawful impediment like one party is underage or already married, they must refuse to solemnize the union and record their reasons.
Right, so there's a process for challenges. Okay, we've navigated the constitutional basis, the definition, the how-to. Now, let's get to the real crux, the so what. Section 13 seems pivotal. What are the actual legal consequences? Did this act really put civil unions on the same legal footing as marriages under the Marriage Act?
This is absolutely where the Act delivers on its constitutional promise. Section 13.1 is the powerhouse.
Yep.
It states, quite simply, the legal consequences of a marriage contemplated in the Marriage Act apply, with such changes as may be required by the context, to a civil union.
Wow. So basically all the rights and responsibilities that automatically applied to married couples under that main act, they now just apply to civil union partners too.
Precisely. Think inheritance, maintenance, adoption rights, medical aid benefits, pension funds, intestate succession, property division upon dissolution. All those complex legal consequences developed over decades for marriage. Section 13.1 effectively imports them wholesale into the civil union framework.
That's huge. It avoids having to rewrite every single law.
Exactly. It was an incredibly efficient way to achieve comprehensive legal equality. But it goes even further. Section 13.2 broadens the scope dramatically.
How so?
It says that, except for the Marriage Act and the Customary Marriages Act themselves, any reference to marriage in any other law, I think tax law, immigration law, Social Security, anything automatically includes a civil union. Okay? And similarly, any reference in any other law to husband, wife, or spouse automatically includes a civil union partner.
So it's not just about family law consequences. It integrates civil unions across the entire legal system.
That's the power of it. It ensures that wherever the law previously recognized rights or obligations based on marriage, those same rights and obligations now extend to civil unions, unless the context absolutely prevents it, which would be rare.
So on a day-to-day basis, what did this mean for people? What was the real-world significance?
It meant dignity. It meant security. It meant recognition. Before this, same-sex couples, for example, lived with constant legal uncertainty. Could they inherit from a partner who died without a will? Could they make medical decisions if their partner was incapacitated? Would their foreign partnership be recognized?
All those fundamental life issues.
Exactly. This act swept away much of that uncertainty. It provided automatic legal protection and recognition in countless situations. It meant their relationship, their family structure was seen and treated as equally valid and deserving of protection by the law of the land. It fundamentally changed lives by providing legal certainty and affirming human dignity.
That's incredibly impactful. Now, with such important rights and processes, there must be ways to ensure the act is followed correctly. What about safeguards, offenses, and penalties?
Yeah, Section 14 deals with that. It lays out specific offenses to prevent abuse and ensure compliance. For instance, if a marriage officer solemnizes a union they know is prohibited by law, or if they're not actually authorized to solemnize civil unions, that's an offense, punishable by a fine or potentially up to 12 months in prison.
So strict rules for the officers.
Definitely. And it also covers someone pretending to be a marriage officer and performing a ceremony, same penalty. There's also a clause against corruption. If a marriage officer demands or takes any extra fee or reward beyond what's maybe prescribed, that's also an offense fine or up to 6 months.
Okay.
And generally, Knowingly contravening any provision of the Act carries a penalty of a fine or up to 6 months. Plus, making false statements lying on the forms basically makes you liable for perjury penalties.
So, clear consequences for breaking the rules. What about ongoing administration?
Section 15 gives the minister the power to make regulations. This covers things like prescribing the specific forms to be used, setting any official fees, and generally managing the Act's implementation. These regulations can also include penalties for breaching them, again, usually a fine or up to 6 months. Interestingly, Section 15(3) allowed the regulations from the old Marriage Act to apply temporarily for the first year, just to get things running smoothly.
Okay, we have really covered a lot today. We started with that constitutional push for equality, the why. Then we defined what a civil union actually is, that choice between marriage and civil partnership.
And the core requirements, especially that key clause in Section 8(6).
Exactly. We walked through the solemnization process, the how, the role of the officer, witnesses, the prescribed words, registration.
Making it official.
And then the absolute core. Section 13, the legal consequences, confirming that equal status with marriage under the Marriage Act and broad recognition across other laws.
It really is a landmark piece of legislation.
Yeah.
It represents a significant step in South Africa's journey towards being a more inclusive society, truly living up to those constitutional ideals of dignity, equality, and freedom for everyone, no matter their sexual orientation.
Absolutely. It addressed a clear historical gap and provided that vital legal framework. So, thinking about this, what does it all mean for you listening? This deep dive really highlights how law isn't static. It can and does evolve to reflect changing societal values and sometimes to push society towards its own stated ideals. It shows how legal frameworks can be adapted to ensure they protect everyone. Which leaves us with a thought to ponder. As society's understanding of family and partnership continues to evolve, how will legal frameworks keep pace? What might future adaptations look like, not just in South Africa, but globally? How do we ensure law continues to reflect the diverse realities of human relationships? We really hope this exploration of the Civil Union Act has been insightful for you, that it's given you that clear, comprehensive understanding we aimed for. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll be back next time to unpack another important topic.